So it's a Friday, I'm in clinic, and it means one thing. It means I'm going to give you a little takeaway for the weekend. It's really, really cold here in London this morning. I've had sleet on the train, hail. It's beautifully clear and crisp, but my goodness, is it cold. And it's April the 1st, so April Fool's Day, and that's no joke. So what do we cover today? Well, we're looking at the critic, the inner critic in recovery. And there are things that are really, really helpful in recovery and things that are just not helpful. And I guarantee today, I'm going to be talking about something that every single one of you recognizes as either something that's happening right now as you're listening to this, or something that is happened to you, maybe today, maybe last night, maybe earlier in the week, maybe last week, and something that's probably most likely going to happen at some point in your journey of recovery as well. I know this myself personally, and I take hundreds of patients. I've taken hundreds of patients through and the inner critic is just the voice in our head, the judge, the monkey chatter, and the thing that often really brings us down, the thing that makes us feel worse about our situation. So let me give you some examples. Right, we're already in pain. You already have symptoms in and around your pelvis that are just not pleasant, that are just not enjoyable or helpful. And then in comes that little voice. You should have known better. You shouldn't have done that thing. Why didn't you do something different? I'm never going to get out of this. This is the way I'm going to be for the rest of my life. How can I do that thing in the future? How can I ever expect to be able to get back to and insert your task or activity or life event that you want in here? How can I ever have that life back that I had beforehand? Sound familiar? Yeah. So that's your inner critic. And do you find, here's a good question for you, do you find that inner critic helpful? Do you find that inner critic as something that is supportive and guiding of you in your recovery? I guarantee your answer is absolutely not. First of all, we need to realize that that is unhelpful, and then we can start to uncouple ourselves from that voice. So every person will have this at some point. And it's really, really easy to that voice. It's really, really easy to believe that as front and center as just being, oh my God, this is just happening to me. I can't get over this. I'm never going to recover. Exactly, James. I've got James live on the call at the moment as well. Yeah, I'm never going to recover. I'm never going to get over this. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this, whatever it might be. It's really, really unhelpful. And in recovery, recognizing that critic and choosing to listen to it less and less and less is so, so helpful. Okay, I work with a personal development coach. Even now, I have no pain, but I see that there's every opportunity for me to get better within myself and be a better person, whether that's a better clinician, whether that's a better husband or a better father or friend. There's always opportunity to be better. So my personal development would say, get really good at recognizing that critical, judging, demoralizing voice. And then when you get good at it, then try and be a little bit nicer to yourself. Try and change the narrative around a little bit. Be less judgmental. Try to be less critical. If you can completely decouple yourself from it, then even better. Recognize there's a thought, recognize the negativity. I'm going to give you an interesting bit of science in just a second, and try and think, is this really helpful for me right now? Is this allowing me to be the person I want to be right now? Is it helping me to get to my end goal of full recovery? If it's not, then that thought isn't helpful. And in time and with practice, you can learn to let go and let go and let go. And guess what? There'll be another voice that comes up, something else that's judgmental, something else that's critical. That's the nature of the ruminating mind. So did you know that an emotion, the chemical response of an emotion as it bubbles up in the brain and the physical reaction lasts for less than a minute? What takes us through and beyond that, as the emotion dissipates, is a mood state, right? And we end up in a mood. And that mood may last for a couple of minutes. It may last for a couple of hours. It may last for a day, a week, even longer. And everything just starts to close in. Everything starts to get very, very narrow, and our focus becomes very broad, very, very insular. It's not, oh, wow, look at how amazing the world is. It's, oh, look at how judgmental I am. Look at how critical things are. Look at how awful they are. That's not helping. It's not helping in terms of our coping strategies. It's not helping in terms of our hopefulness for the future. So if you can recognize that voice and start to realize that it's just not helpful, and that if we tune into it and pay attention and listen to it, it's going to make us feel worse. It's going to feel like someone is kicking us in the nuts, literally. So here's the thing. Would you be that judgmental of your partner? Would you be judgmental of your children? If you have children, would you be that judgmental of a friend? Imagine that. Your friend is already in the heap on the floor in real distress, and there you are pointing a finger, judging and accusing and criticizing them that they should know better, that they should not be in this state. It's not helpful, is it? We wouldn't do it to a friend or a family member, a child. We probably wouldn't do it to a stranger either, but we'd do it to ourselves. I've got a lovely story, a couple of examples of things that I can reflect from that I've been told this week in clinic. So a patient of mine on a golf course, playing golf, terrible game, loads and loads of symptoms. He stopped, took 5 minutes out, ate. They were talking about a whole host of different things, and they ended up wetting themselves, I mean, not literally, but metaphorically, wetting themselves laughing about something, a completely different event. Guess what happened to that patient's symptoms? They dropped right off. They didn't go, but they became much, much less. They cracked back on with the game, and it was an enjoyable experience in the end. So our seriousness and how seriously we take those thoughts and those judgments can make a really, really big difference as to whether our symptoms escalate or whether they diminish. Another patient of mine I spoke to yesterday, first time seeing him, he says, I can sit there in my chair in my office and ruminate and worry and get really anxious and get really fed up and wound up. He said, but if I take myself out of my chair, out of my office, out the house, and walk down the driveway with his dog, turns around, comes back, he's in a much, much better place. It's not going to happen every time for every single person, but if we just sit there and we just ruminate, instead of taking action, instead of doing something that we know makes a big difference, even if it's small and insignificant, get up, do something different. That ruminating, anxious, worrying, critical, judgmental brain is not helping. So let's put it to bed. Find a distraction. There's a really, really important message. Find a distraction. Recognize the voice. Try and decouple with it. I'll do a couple of these over the next few weeks and give you some extra tips and hints around this as well. And often that judgmental voice can be really, really loud and shouty when we're working by ourselves. Again, I know this personally. I see this with patients year in and year out. If you're working by yourself and you're having that judgmental voice and you're maybe reaching out on a forum online, you're probably not going to get the right support and the right guidance for you. You're probably not going to get, reading through the messages, the outcome that you're looking for. Someone to say, it's okay. All right, you're going to be fine. This is just a phase. It's not pleasant. It's not nice. This may be associated with a flare-up as well. I did my Friday takeaway last week on being a lone wolf, and there's some validity in that, right? It's very commendable, but also recognize that there are some limitations and that you're not a failure if you reach out and you want help. That's what pelvic pain matters are here for, right? That is the only thing that we do. Offer support, offer guidance, offer care, offer recovery for men with pelvic pain. That's the only thing that we do. So don't wolf, all right? Work as part of a team, and it can help to change that ruminating, critical, judgmental mind. And there's probably going to be some ruminating and some criticism and some judgment around working with someone else as well. There it is. There's a great example of how the mind works. This isn't all in your head. It's absolutely not all in your head, but your head and your mind and that ruminating voice can make a big difference in terms of how you're coping, how you're feeling, and how you're able to successfully navigate a day. Something to consider. The critic in recovery is not helpful. So I'll carry on this next week. Enjoy Friday, something to consider over the weekend. Recognize that voice. Please, 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 as my personal development coach would say to me, be a ninja, the best possible ninja at recognizing that voice, and be a little bit nicer to yourself, and then be a little bit nicer again, and then get up and do something about it. That's it. Stay well. Look after yourselves. Don't judge yourselves too much, and don't be a lone wolf.